Well, good morning, church family. This morning we are in Genesis 15, and I want to just focus on the first 6 verses. In verse 1, we see that God is speaking to Abram here in a vision. God is saying, "Do not be afraid, Abram. I am your shield, your very great reward." Why might Abram be afraid? It's not recorded here what he was afraid of, but it might be that he feared revenge from the kings he had just defeated. And then God also said to Abram, "I am your very great reward." Or in other words, your reward will be very great. So what is Abram's first response to what God had promised him here? Well, in verses 2 to 3, it goes on to say that, "But Abram said, 'O sovereign Lord, what can you give me since I remain childless, and the one who will inherit my estate is Eliezer of Damascus?' And Abram said, 'You have given me no children, so a servant in my household will be my heir.' Abram and his wife Sarah were childless. They were old. It was humanly impossible for Sarah to conceive and give birth to a child. The only heir to Abram's estate was his most trusted and chief servant, Eliezer. This was according to custom in Abram's day. If Abram were to die without a son, his eldest servant then would become his heir. Although Abram loved his servant, he wanted a son to carry on the family line. In verse 4, we see God's response to Abram. God said, "This man will not be your heir, but a son coming from your own body will be your heir. Look up at the heavens and count the stars. So shall your offspring be." Have you ever tried to count the stars? It has been said that where Abram was, he could probably see about 4,000 stars. But actually, there were about 50,000 stars in the area where he was looking. So this is really incredible. Abram, he's old, his wife is barren, would father offspring as numerous as the stars in the sky. Abram was despairing of not even having an heir except for a servant. Then God promised him descendants too numerous to even imagine. Often God's blessings are beyond our imaginations. So Abram's response to this incredible promise is in verse 6. Abram believed the Lord, and he credited it to him as righteousness. In Hebrews 11:12, it says, "And so this one man," referring to Abram, "and he is as good as dead, came descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky and as countless as the sands on the seashore." Abram's faith in God was strong. In a sense, he appears to be a very practical man. God said it, I believe it, and that settles it. Abram had a very close relationship with God. Abram demonstrated his faith in God by his actions, but it was his belief in God that made Abram right with God. We too can have a relationship with God like Abram by trusting in him. Our outward actions, like attending church, spending time in prayer, doing good deeds, and the like, will not by themselves make us right with God. A right relationship is based on faith, the heartfelt confidence that God is who he says he is and does what he says he will do. God's blessings are beyond our imaginations. Enjoy your time in God's Word today.